right, man. So I guess we'll go ahead and get going. I kind of messed up your Twitter. Sorry about locking you out of your Twitter.
No, hey, listen, as long as I know who's hacking me, I really don't get offended by it.
Is it hacking if it's permitted? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I'm trying to use like these new words, this jargon that makes me like,
Well, we didn't get onto your Twitter. That'll be next week when I don't have your account locked. When you need the wrong password.
Yeah. I banned this from my Twitter.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get going, Bill. This is the Bill DeMott Experience. We are live right now on Facebook. I think we're on this day in pro wrestling history. I think it has more followers than our personal Facebook. So, nice. And of course, the wrestling fans. So that's a plus. Always like that. And we're going live on my Twitter right now because I locked Bill out of his. Next week, we'll be live on Bill's. This is kind of a trial run we're using StreamYard right now just so we can get a little bit user experience, share some videos, stuff like that. So this is actually a test run we're doing right now. So we appreciate you being patient with us. Yeah. A little bit out of our comfort zone, but that's part of life though, Bill. How are you doing this week, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I like this stuff. I'm learning a lot. Is this what they call it, AI? Are we AI right now?
I don't know if we're full-blown AI right now, but we're getting there.
I just like the fact that I could be AI because I know the I stands for intelligence.
Can't beat that. That's something we're not called very often. So anytime we can be associated with that, we'll take it.
Doing good, buddy. How you doing?
Good, man. Crazy day, running behind, but wouldn't have it any other way. So today, this episode is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be an hour and a half long marathon. I have the kiddos in the house and fall break and all that. So that's what's going on here, man. Fall break time. Can't beat that. It just seems like it's earlier than it was when I was a kid. I just don't know that for a fact, but we're on fall break.
Well, so I'm a couple years older than you by 2 decades. And isn't fall break the same as winter break?
No, winter break, you get a couple weeks off around Christmas time, man. So
now there's a week off for fall break?
It's only 2 days.
So you have a break, and then you go, because then there's a break coming up for Thanksgiving, and then you go, and then there's a break for winter. So is there a pre-spring break? What is that called? A post-winter break?
Now you're going too far. You're looking too far into this, I think.
I'm delving. See, this is where the intelligence thing. This is where I ruined it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they got a couple days off. That's good.
Yeah, for sure. So man, tonight I had a little bit of a approach we're going to do. All the big talk this week has been NXT versus AEW. A lot of buildup going into this, man. Did you see as this week? Actually, over the last week, I'd say really started to progress on this buildup of AEW AEW Dynamite, versus WWE NXT. I believe this started because of playoff baseball. Is that correct? So they moved, and they had to move AEW Dynamite to Tuesday night because I think
for the playoffs. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till you serve me the softball, and then I'm gonna jump into my I don't want to call it a rant. I'm gonna wait because I've got a lot to say that has nothing to do about either show.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but we'll go down. We'll give it a shot. Wow. So we so there's been a build up to this, like we just said, and there's been kind of like a one-upping going on. Yeah. Tony Khan's actually gone on a little bit of a media tour. He did some podcast stuff like that to make the announcement about this. And he's been all over Twitter, more active than he usually is. He's been very active on Twitter. He's at some point appeared to fire some shots.
Yep.
I think there was some tweet about bald asses or something. I don't really know.
That's where I'm going, man. I'm just waiting for you to take me there. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, so you can go if you want. So basically Tony Khan is really building this up, and then you go where you're going to go, then I'll continue on with the one-upping that happened.
So here, I'm gonna go back in history a little bit in whatever episode you and I talked about it, and what we should have been talking about from Wembley Stadium was the shot. That was an incredibly well done shot.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about right after Wembley? What was the discussion?
CM Punk.
All the distractions, right? All these things that happened that took away from the show. Here's what I took away from Tuesday night. Tony Khan needs to have a handler to keep him off social media. You cannot be the leader, the president, the CEO, the head of creative, all these things of the number possibly 2 company. Notice I said possibly number 2 company.
I noticed how you said that, yeah.
And go on and act like a high school kid. Everything, like, here, I'll just jump into it. You're going to not acknowledge, because he's the king of acknowledging ratings and what AEW does.
Yeah.
He's not going to acknowledge the spanking they took in the numbers. I'm not a ratings guy, but with the numbers, they took a spanking. What he is going to say is, oh, he flipped with The Undertaker and John Cena, they would have over 1 million views. I'm sorry, so is he bragging that he held them back so much, his show sucked so much that he kept them to 900? Now, I just don't know why Tony Khan feels the need to be such a part of this tribalism and all this stuff that goes on in wrestling, and why he has to lead the charge, because it turns people off, man. It turns people off. I don't know one thing about Tuesday night from AEW except what I read or listened to during the week over the past 2 days. All I know is that everywhere you look, Tony Khan's on social media. Oh, let's be a billionaire and talk about 2 bald guys. Let's talk about how Taker and Cena didn't reach 1 million and they still spanked you. Why does he keep putting himself out there? Because I feel like, honestly, and I have no skin in the game in neither direction, AEW or WWE or NXT or Rampage or Dynamite or all these other things. Why is this happening? And if this is what I'm taking away from what potentially could have been a great Tuesday night for both companies, no matter what the ratings, I'm taking away the guy who's supposed to be leading the charge for AEW is a high school cheerleader on Twitter.
Well, I think, first and foremost, I think Tony Khan is a fan above anything else. And this is very evident when we come into situations. It's actually very evident every day from day to day, it appears to be. Yes. That's not even a knock. He's first and foremost a fan. I think that's how he looks at it. Obviously, I can't really say, like, hey, he doesn't have a good business sense, because, I mean, I'm sure he does, right? He has his hands in a lot of things. But this seems to be like a special project to him, like a collection of cool toys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just gets very into it, but he doesn't have a team, though. Going back to he should have a social media team. He doesn't have a social media team. He doesn't have any team, to be quite frank. He's the booking. I just think for me, it's just, he has kind of gone up and out of his way. And we talked about this last week when we talked about the media press scrums they do after the pay-per-view. Yeah. He's front and center there in every conversation. Of course, WWE's got in on this too now, but you don't see Triple H sitting out there as he goes on last and he gives a business recap, right? I mean, basically it's what he's doing. He's not sitting out there with all the stars,
right?
Smiling but I think part of it, that's what makes Tony Khan great in a sense, because he is such a fan, and you can see that love, and it kind of bleeds through. But to what your point, where you're going to say, at what point do you draw the line in the sand with that?
Yeah, when do you? And I'm not knocking Tony, because he got into this business the same reason the rest of us did. We're a fan of the business. I'm not knocking him for that. I'm saying, come on, dude, you cannot be a fan and still be responsible for toting the load and everything else. You don't see, like, listen, you see Triple H take a picture with new champions in the back, right? It's a photo op, but he stays and promotes it. I get all that. Tony wants to give everybody a hug and take photos, and I get it. But he's got to be, it's almost like, it's like these independent guys who come into some money, and they're going to run as many shows as they can and be part of those shows for as long as they can till it goes south. The only problem is, if this ever goes south, Tony Khan has other things to fall back on.
Yeah.
The people he's leading don't have a lot of options after this. And I feel like there's got to be, you said it, I think there's got to be a line in the sand where you can still be a fan of the business, but you don't have to be front and center and doing these things. Like, I just feel like he's going out of his way to draw attention to him. There should have been this much talk about Saraya losing the title, but instead all the talks about Tony Khan and the jabs at Honor and Sean because they're bald, and the jabs at Vince and the jabs at Taker and Cena, and it's always jabs, and it's not, just protect your position, protect your company.
Yeah.
What's your company over? He kept putting more light on everything else, but him doing it to me is just.
Let me be the devil's advocate, though. This is the other side of the argument. Didn't Vince McMahon do that throughout? Like, what's the difference between? And you give me your opinion, I'll give you mine.
Yeah.
What's the difference between Vince McMahon in 1998, 1997 through 2000, and this, or just when Vince McMahon's on?
There's a legitimate war in that one. There's a legitimate struggle for number one. But my thing is, Vince McMahon, and he always went on as Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
The character. We're getting the same Tony Khan all the time, if that makes sense. Now, again,
you know Vince McMahon.
Right.
So you're saying, and it's obvious that Mr. McMahon's a character.
Mr. McMahon.
What you're saying is this is Tony Khan.
This is Tony. This is Tony being Tony. And I feel like, AEW's claim to fame is they want to give everybody what they're not getting. But I see Tony falling into the trap of giving them, to me, it just takes away from the product, man. It's such a distraction. I don't know what the intention is. And
I would say it has
as a fan, I'm sorry, but as a fan, if you, let's say, like, I've been fortunate enough, I have 35 years in this business. So I kind of look at things a little different than most. But if you're a casual fan and you're seeing this, why am I seeing this guy? Why am I following this guy? And if I don't know, I didn't hear him once talk about what, and again, I could have missed a few things, but I didn't see any video or conversations or print of Tony talking about how great Tuesday was. He's talking about everything NXT and WWE did or did not do.
Right.
What about your company? Put all that time and energy into your people.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. And I also want to mention that Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon, the character, kind of happened naturally.
Yeah.
He capitalized off of a situation. He didn't have to force the issue. The issue is kind of forced upon him. And that goes back to the Montreal Screwjob is where you can really identify where the light was put on Vince McMahon for the first time ever. He kind of was commentator, and most people, I don't know about most, a lot of people didn't even know that he was the owner, right? I mean, you just didn't know. It didn't matter. But as that attention was forced upon him, he kind of embraced it, and he saw that there was money to be made from it. He didn't force the issue. And it certainly can come across like Tony Khan just really wants to be a part of the team in every aspect. Yeah. He wants to book the shows, and that's fine. He wants to do a lot of things, but he also wants to be on television and be a part of the show. He's just kind of forcing the issue.
It's, it goes from making huge announcements. Okay, now there's once in a while he's on TV. Then it goes to apologizing about the Punk thing. Then it's coming out after the shows and doing things with talent. And again, I'm going to use the analogy. It's like a guy who came into a lot of money, had an opportunity to do some wrestling things. He surrounded himself with really cool people in the business and legends and all these things. And he just wants to be one of the boys.
Yeah.
And that's where he loses, I think, fans like myself. Like, I can't help but read into it. I can't help but realize, like, nothing about 2 weeks ago, Adam Copeland was the biggest thing we're talking about in AEW.
Yeah.
And once again, we're not talking that much about Adam Copeland. He's just another guy on AEW. What we're talking about is Tony Khan at the forefront, playing, your mama jokes with, and of all things, of NXT. You're trying to bag on NXT, but you're a ratings guy and you lost by over 300,000 people.
Well, this goes back to, so it's actually been about 1 year since, and thank you to all of you joining. We're going live here for the first time, so bear with us. But this goes back to it's actually almost a year ago exactly that they split off onto different nights, with NXT going to Tuesday for whatever reason. I honestly don't remember. Maybe it was just a deal at the USA Network. But we always talked about it then. Yeah. This time just felt different because we knew it was coming ahead of time. And then I'll get into what I was going to say. They started this one-upping going on here. So WWE the last couple weeks last couple shows, so last week we'll say, started really throwing names out there they were going to bring in to this. I think they went with Cody Rhodes first. Could be wrong. Yeah. Cody Rhodes, John Cena. Did they announce The Undertaker even, or was that a surprise?
No. Yeah, they didn't announce it.
But we all heard about it. We all heard he was going to be there. For those that keep up on any sort of pro wrestling news at all, we'll call it news, we heard he was going to be there.
Yeah.
So then they announced that we're going to go the first 30 minutes commercial free. And then before you know it, AEW says, well, we're going to go at least the first 30 minutes commercial free. Then we're going to do a pre-show. We are going to do a pre-show. And I don't think WWE necessarily was worried about that as much.
Right.
So the stage was set. Tony Khan did a press tour, said a few things, sent a few tweets. Then we get going here, and immediately NXT kicks off with a big announcement from Cody Rhodes. He talks about he's going to bring Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Invitational back. Blah blah blah. He's the general manager that night. Sets the scene right away. And these were two very different shows. Let me say that to you. And I watched both. I don't know if you did. Did you watch both?
I started out.
Well, let me go back to that. Everybody kept acting like they were watching both somehow. I don't really know how you do that. You can flip back and forwards. I get that, but what I did was I said I'm going to watch NXT. Then I watched today AEW. So it was yesterday, the day after. I apologize. Yes, yeah. So I knew I really can't analyze these unless I watch them in full. And I get it. That kind of took away from in the moment. So I can't really tell you this thing was happening the exact same time this was happening. But they were like very different shows. And I think that's so evident with every single week that they have a television show. It's just a completely different show.
Yeah.
But obviously, going back to what we were saying, WWE felt the need to kind of send a statement, it felt like. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I absolutely feel like they said, okay, we're pitching pennies, and now you want to pitch nickels. We're going to pitch quarters. It's a bad analogy, but that's the best way I could put it. It's like, okay, you did a belly whop from the edge of the pool. I'm going off the high dive. The problem with that is, for the other side is, after the high dive, there's nowhere to go for Tony Khan. Because all your, the chamber's empty. You fired all your bullets. All your people are there. You're not coming, The only thing that could have made that show bigger than NXT was if Jade Cargill would have showed up back on AEW.
It's fashionably late to NXT though.
Yeah, well, I believe she has a bigger window of arrival time than most. It looks like. It was too. I watched them at the same time because if you put one on your laptop and one on the TV, if you do the streaming thing or whatever it is,
yeah,
I physically had to change it because I feel like I could have seen that AEW match any night of the week. And forgive me, but I think they started out with Daniel Bryan.
Good match.
Big fan. I think, and it takes a lot to make me change it, but I think I could have seen that good match and that Daniel Bryan anytime. But now you got Cody Rhodes announcing LA Knight and the Dusty Classic. What else are they going to do? I'm the new GM. They hooked you. The WWE has that thing of hooking you in the first 20 minutes of every show. A lot of fans and people complain it's too much talking, but it works. For people who do watch the numbers, it works. That's why they stay with the formula that works. And I kept trying to go back, and nothing was saying, here we are. And there's nothing wrong with that because from what I saw, that it was a good show. It's not a knock on the talent. It's not a knock on anything else. It's just if you're going to do all this one-upmanship and all these things before, and then the shows speak for themselves. That's where I would have been happy with it. AEW had a good show. NXT came out of the water with it. They were on fire. So what? It showed in the ratings. So what? 900,000 to 600,000. So what? But here comes Tony adding fuel to the fire now.
Poking the bear.
Yeah. So what didn't work for you before, sure as hellfire isn't going to work for you after. And now we're not even talking about your talent and your show and the things you're trying to create. We're talking about you getting on social media and stop trying to be the front runner when you're surrounded by talent and legendary people that can carry the load and do that stuff. All of Chris Jericho's work is swept under the rug because all we're talking about is Tony Khan. And if that's what it's for, then it's doing its purpose for Tony, but it's not helping the talent or the brand out, in my opinion. Like, I that's all I can go to all this week is when we should be talking about wrestling. We're talking about the after effects again. And then just let me add a little more to it. I just read before we came on the air, and I'm saying I read it because I didn't hear it. I read where CM Punk goes, this is why I'm glad I'm not there anymore. Because of the after effects of this social media and this talking and all this, this hot news. Yeah.
I hadn't heard that yet. That's interesting. So you talked about the rating numbers, big divide in the gap of what was watched. But I think as you look at, if you get outside the, Uncle Dave calls it the key demo, there's just such a huge margin and a difference between the younger crowd and the older crowd because they're both watching NXT by far more.
Yeah.
But then again, we talk about the key demo every week, and really last year when we were going head to head, and obviously NXT takes that home by a mile too, because you can't, and people kind of seem like they're like, that's unfair. WWE did that. I'll be the first. I'll just say, if Tony Khan could have brought The Undertaker there for that night, he would have.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they did it because they could, yes.
Right.
But if Tony Khan could have done it, trust me, he would have done it. He threw everything he did at it. Unfortunately for him, it was and I think no matter what, if you're on a different night, you are going to struggle. I don't think I don't know if you can match that. I mean, does anybody match that on a regular basis if they change the night? I mean,
I agree with what you're saying, but I also look at it as, so let's use WWE when they have to, they're preempted by the dog show. Every year the K9 thing comes up and, they have to do one a different time or whatever the heck the case is. I think that this would have been a great opportunity for Tony to showcase some other talent.
Yeah. Put
on a good show and let the ratings and everything speak for itself because we would have been talking about the show they put on. But instead, it's Now you're reinforcing the fact that you got beat, but you're saying, we got beat, but their best guys didn't really crush us. They just beat us really bad.
I get it. I will say this.
Where was Sting the other night?
I don't know.
Why not? What are your biggest draws? Where was Sting the other night? If you're trying to go head to head.
Because they're not developed in the sense where they have that to do that. They've used Sting every week.
Right. So follow me. What you just said is absolutely right. So you know what I'm saying about Tony Khan at the end.
Yeah.
Let sleeping dogs lie. You timed your show out to where your vignette of Tony Storm was in picture-in-picture, and you didn't even get to see this vignette that they pumped up because it was during a commercial. Let's talk about those things. Why don't we focus on your group of people, your unbelievable talent pool that you have and all these things? That's the thing. And I told you, I said at the beginning, this is the only thing that's on my mind about wrestling this week.
I'll say it. The wrestling was better on AEW.
The wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By far better on AEW. NXT, I actually thought the, what did they call the pub match? Entertaining, good time. But the other matches, even with Dominic Mysterio, Carmelo Hayes, they were all standard WWE matches. But this is where it stood out to me as I watched both, and hear me out here. WWE did a really good job of promoting the upcoming shows. And this is where AEW's just gone off the hinges, and they're getting worse at. And I like watching AEW. I like so many of the people on there. WWE, I believe, set up 4 or 5 upcoming matches. AEW set up 2. And going on to the show, they did build it as this title night, right?
Right.
But AEW, as of late, you don't know what's going to be on, what the matches are going to be, what you're tuning into. And that's one thing they've got away from, and they're doing a pretty bad job at. And they were here in Indianapolis recently.
Yep.
Hardly any local promotion at all. They're going to these small towns, and they're struggling getting people there. From what I understand, their pay-per-view buys are okay. But as far as the attendance, it's gone down. It's struggled. And a lot of the stuff I'm seeing is just they're not promoting locally. And I'll tell you who does an excellent job with that. It's WWE. Yeah. When they go to your town, they're on your news channel. They're making public appearances. They're building up their arrival. And they have done that since I was a kid. They have done that the whole time I've been alive. They've been known for that. They kind of have these like tricks they do. I don't know if they do it much anymore, but they hook you. They will promise you, like John Cena versus The Rock. It may not be on TV though.
Yeah, they didn't say it's TV, right?
So they make you want to go there and watch it. Because I know I've watched one in Evansville, and it was CM Punk and Daniel Bryan back in the day. They weren't on TV together.
Right.
But damn it, I went there to watch that match. Yep. And it did happen afterward. Did it have a real finish? No. But as promised, as promoted, way ahead of time. Way ahead of time. And they delivered. And if they don't do that, they say, you're going to see superstars and they'll list 5 of them on.
Right.
But to me, where the big difference where I'm starting to see in the storyline, WWE continues to progress it throughout their show. Whether the wrestling matches are great or not, that's up for debate. But they did a great job this week of setting up multiple Halloween Havoc matches, promoting multiple NXT matches next week.
Yep.
And we got 2 different... we got a collision match. Christian Cage will defend the title. But my point is, the progression of the storyline of WWE is a whole other level. But the matches... The matches were really good on AEW. I enjoyed the matches.
Yeah.
They were great, but WWE, it's just hard to beat somebody that's been doing it for 50 years.
When you have a guy, let me ask you this. If we'll do a little role playing for all those people tuning in right now. I'm gonna play the role of WWE. You're gonna play the role of AEW. We're gonna do the promotion like you said, because this is how it works. But now you have in your stable and behind the scenes Jeff Jarrett, Christian Cage, Chris Jericho, Edge, Adam Copeland, however you want to call him. Those are just 4. And I'll give you Paige as well, Soraya. All who've been part of those events and promoting things and know how it's done. Why are we not picking their brain? Why is Jeff Jarrett not running that part of it? Where's the team here that's saying to Tony, hey man, where is Wardlow in every town doing? You're not doing anything with him. Where's Miro? You're not doing anything with him. Where's Nyla Rose? Where's Thunder Rosa? Where's all these people that you're not doing anything with? They can't be out there promoting these towns. Like, how hard is it to try it? And why not put the same energy into that, what you're talking about, as opposed to putting the energy into doing these after show 2-day social media things? Because what do you gain? 50,000 more likes, couple followers, thumbs up, retweets, posts. But what's that doing for his business? Where the heck is Wardlow? Like, you crushed everything that Hobbs and Chris Jericho did because no one's talking about it. I don't care if Taz and Shivani are talking about it next week. That's their job. They have to talk about it. No one's talking about it now. And he has the tools. It just seems like he doesn't want to use them.
You think he just doesn't know how to use them?
I can't. I would like to not think that he's so hard to reach or talk to.
Right.
Someone couldn't make him see that. But I honestly don't. I don't know what the end game is. Like I said, I'm not on the. You got Dustin Rhodes and Billy Gunn, Dean Malenko. All these guys that have been part of the machine for so. Arn Anderson. Let's take all the WWE people that he has. Now let's take all the guys who made their names in Japan, in Mexico, all know how to promote themselves and everybody else. We're missing something. And by we, I think the fans miss out on more things like you're talking about, like get me, hook me, bring me to these shows, make me want to go. Let me get my advance tickets. Let me do this. And I just think I don't know what the focus is on. I think it's just happy to be here. And we got this cool TV deal, and when it goes, it goes. But back to your original question, the WCW and WWF were fighting for ratings, fighting for these things, and working towards that. The one-upmanship still relied on the talent and how you put the talent out there and the stories and what you were trying. Coming to your town, we were working triple overtime in media. Both sides, WCW and WWE. So to your point, I just see the things that are missing, and 4 years in now, it should be part of the blueprint.
I agree. It seems like little things, but that seems to be like what's piling up to be the biggest thing to me. I think AEW has Dynamite, 600,000 people that are going to watch come hell or high water. I do, and right. WWE obviously probably has. NXT probably has around that. I mean, they might have around that too. Yeah. But it's going to be the big thing for AEW is how do you get more people to watch it that aren't right now? And the first thing, that's not the first thing, but we try to get a CM Punk. We try to get an Adam Copeland. Is that good enough? I think you got to go and do the things that we're talking about. Story-wise, yeah, not much progressed. A lot of freaking title changes and some good matches. Like I said, I'll say it again, better matches than NXT. Yeah. AEW had better matches. A bunch of title change. I don't really know why or where they're going to go from there. Like I'll say Paige, just so everybody knows what I mean. Losing the title didn't make a heck of a lot of sense. Orange Cassidy, because they really kind of advertised Dean Ambrose up until the last minute. We knew Dean Ambrose ain't gonna wrestle. He's hurt. He got hurt. He got hurt pretty bad getting dropped on his head. But that's another story that we've talked about. It's just a lot of title changes that I don't know where they're going to go from there or why they did them. There was no build-up to them. I love seeing Swerve Strickland. I think he's awesome.
I think he gets better. I think he gets better every week.
So where we're seeing these gap, and they're trying to revamp Wardlow, which is good. They are developing a few guys at a time, but you have to be able to do that in a story that grabs people's attention, not really just a spectacle, right? Like, it's hard to get a real good spectacle person in wrestling these days, and that's what WWE can do, and they're evident of that. We've got John Cena. Crowd went nuts for John. I mean, they went nuts for John Cena there. And the thing about the NXT that I like is it's consistent. The crowd is consistent. Clear back from when you were there, Bill. I assume it's the same people going. I mean, they're so invested in. Yeah,
I'm sure there's a large amount that have still been there since the beginning.
Yeah, and they're so invested in it. It reminds me of local independent wrestling, to be honest. And I think as AEW continues to travel, they don't work every day, but you got to get into that marketplace, and you have to be consistent. You have to start to build something, and that's where I think NXT kind of goes away from print.
Yeah,
I did think there was also they got to always do something. And, WWE does a bunch of silly stuff, but NXT does too. The Young Bucks will do their thing. Jay White and they did that thing with it wasn't Jay White, but they did that joke with the quarters. They always got to do something, but in the end, ultimately, they can't just rely on an edge to get that more viewers. I don't think that's going to be what's going to do it. CM Punk boosted the ratings at some points in time, but I don't think there's any single person that they can really fall back on and do. Yeah, that's WWE can at any point in time, and I think you're right. That was a statement.
And so here's another part of the show that really told me they're not interested in furthering stories. And the part of the show I'm talking about is when the commentators, the 3-man team, were talking about how Chris Jericho was sent to the hospital, right?
Yeah, I hope he's okay. Yeah,
he's doing all these things. He's been rushed to a hospital and all these things. But on a lighter note, we got Christmas toys. Who is setting that up?
I don't know.
There's so much, you see what I mean? It's so much time focused on, wait till this show's over and I go on social media. Fix the things because if it's not important enough for you to talk about, and now you're going to tell me how you got $50,000 worth of toys when your biggest star, you do an angle, he's rushed to the hospital, you buy on a lighter note, on a less casual note, hey, we got this Christmas drive. So you totally threw it away. When AEW has probably the best talker on the microphone right now in MJF, why is he not out doing media all over the place instead of these podcast bits and pieces? You're telling a story about how he got bullied with the quarters and Juice Robinson. Why are we not talking about that? Because that show doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As much as let me do my thing after. Tony's not bringing people in with what he's doing. He's turning people away. And sooner or later, there's going to be talent just there for the paycheck. And when the paycheck runs out, they're going to come to where they know they can do business.
Yeah.
Because they have a ton of potential that could be doing exactly what you're talking about. Building stories, furthering them, going into the talents, bringing your buy rates up and all these other things. But yet that's not the focus. And after 1 year, okay, there's a learning curve. 2 years, okay, now we're getting our feet wet, sophomore year. 3 years, 4 years, you went to Wembley with 81,000, whatever the debate is on that number now. But you went with 81,000 people. And we're back to talking about stupid stuff that's being said and done on social media and nothing about the talent and what they've done.
We are, I believe, just as an update for everybody listening, we are now live on Bill DeMott's Twitter page.
Yes, we are.
That guy just got it plugged in there.
Nice.
I was working on that behind the scenes while you're doing your rant. So we'll go back through, and this is, of course, a live episode here. As we're talking about, on the Bill DeMott Experience, we're talking about NXT versus WWE. Great points that you made there completely, Bill. I do want to say something. I just want to throw something out there, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
Aside from Roman Reigns, I really do think what they have with Christian Cage is top heel. I know you don't like the word, caliber. He might be the best heel in professional wrestling outside of Roman Reigns, who's not regularly there at this moment. So do you think they did a good job on the show leaning into that?
Well, one, I can't argue with the Christian Cage analogy. I think he's one of the best of all time. But I think it goes back to the original question. I don't think they're using it to its full potential. I feel like there's almost I'm trying to think of the right word so it doesn't come out. I almost feel like, and I guess because he said he's the end all do all creative everything else, I almost feel like Tony's afraid to let the pigeons loose. Like, you brought these young cats in here because they were fresh and they had a new perspective on the business, and let's let them fly, right? And now you have these veterans who have the same mentality with a little bit more knowledge. Why not let them loose and see where it goes? I feel like there's always that little bit of hold it back, not everything. But if you don't give us everything with a Christian Cage, and you keep giving us the in and outs of Hobbs and Wardlow and all these other people and these things. Now Saraya drops the title. I mean, even Orange Cassidy the other night didn't look enthusiastic about becoming champion. Is that just me? It just didn't have the same feel to it. It was just something that they did.
Again, exactly. There was no build-up.
No.
You may get John Moxley. Well, you aren't going to get John Moxley. And Orange Cassidy enters Orange Cassidy, and he wins. But does it matter? Because was the guy that was the champion now even supposed to be the champion?
Right.
We covered that. I don't know how much we were off for about a month, but going back to the incident and getting the injury and kind of changing it up on the moment, evidently, it's very evident now that there was never a plan for him to be the champion.
Right.
So where do they go from here,
Now Orange Cassidy has it again. Do you give him another great run like he had the first time? Or is he just going to slip on a banana peel and, the best friends are going to bring up a Trent Beretta gets it? I mean, where are we going to go? Is Willow Nightingale going to come out of nowhere again because we don't see her every week when she builds momentum? Is she going to beat the new champion? And why would you have the same girl win the championship over and over again? At least if it was someone... If Sky Blue would have beat Saraya, at least there's something to talk about. What the heck just happened here? This came out of nowhere.
Yep.
You got this former champion. And again, it's not a knock on the talent. It's a knock on, as a viewer watching this, you're not giving me a reason to tune into your other shows or to come back next week because I know I can just see it anytime I want and they're just going to give me some good wrestling. It's not a knock on the talent. It's just, where are they going? There's got to be an end game, at least when in the WWE, from experience, there's a 9-month, 12-month, 15-month grid of storyline.
Okay.
And within that grid, there's the potential for, well, if someone gets hurt, who's the backup? Who do we build? Who's built? Who can carry on? Who can take the ball and run with it? Yada, yada, yada. Knowing what I just told you about the grid that's built for 6 pay-per-views out, do you think that AEW has that same approach?
No, it certainly doesn't seem that way. Yeah, and to be honest with you, I can't. Stuff happens, and you have to make changes, right?
Right.
That's evident. But it doesn't seem like AEW is out in front on any sort of booking.
Nah.
And now, I don't really know what's going to happen next week. And you think that, that could be, if you're just thinking, I'm going to tune in because I never know what's really going to happen, that's not really how it works on television. You got to have a cliffhanger. because like on a show, right? Like they'll give you a clip of next week or how the episode ends before on a normal television show, let's say. Even though it didn't tell you what was going to happen next week, you know what can happen.
Right.
Or you know there's going to be a situation, right? And when you don't leave any sort of cliffhanger at all, that is really hard. And that was very much so the case with AEW. But going back to NXT, they did try to incorporate some of these things into a storyline. But like the Braun Breaker match with Carmelo, they had the Advocate there. Paul Heyman's on one side, John Cena's on the other. That was just showmanship.
Yeah.
That was you got nothing out of that.
Right.
Story-wise. But you got John Cena in there. John Cena got in a position where he is going to advance his storyline with the Bloodline. Carmelo has a couple different ways they can go, and he certainly seems like him and his partner are going to be at a crossroads eventually, because there's some jealousy there. There's some impatience there. So even though the match itself did not have a purpose between maybe the two individuals in that match in that moment, what they did do was do a good job about further developing along about 2 or 3 more storylines.
Right. So instead of 2 people in the ring, 5 people have moved forward.
Yeah.
And even with the Brawling Brutes in the pub match.
Yep.
We are now set and programmed to know that oh my gosh, his name escapes me, is now part of the Brawling Brutes, because we don't know where Sheamus is.
Yeah.
So now we know that the Brawling Brutes are still a 3-man team, and this kid fits right in. Tyler Bates, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a good athlete. Good.
Oh yeah, really good athlete.
But to your point, they built everything around Trick. Carmelo's sidekick.
Yep.
He's got more play now, just being mentioned and all these things. And then you've got Rhea Ripley, who kind of does this little thing with Jey Uso, but now she did it with Trick. Like,
yeah,
girl, he caught her. It's all those little things, right? Those little nuggets. But to your point, 2 people are in the ring, but 5 people furthered their story. So it's sometimes it's not about just having the best wrestling match. We already know that Daniel Bryan is pound for pound one of the best, if not the
best ever. Yeah, he's in that discussion.
We don't need to know that. But where's the story? What's he doing next? Why he said he retired? He's going to retire in 1 year, but now he just got a different opponent every week.
You think it did Swerve any good? I think him being on TV in a more consistent manner does him well.
When
but
you see Swerve more consistent, it does him well. It doesn't hurt to be in the ring with the American Dragon. But I put it to you like this: what are we going to see? Where's Lana? Where's Miro and Lana when they started that up? Where's Wardlow again? He debuted. He's kind of, where's Wardlow?
Well, he dropped some power bombs. He got a. Oh, what's his name? I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on who he faced.
But where's Wardlow?
Matt Sydal. You didn't see that? He power bombed him 100 times. And
yeah, but listen, have you seen Wardlow do that before?
Oh yeah.
Then where's Wardlow? Where's the new and improved Wardlow?
We're still trying to figure that out.
I got an idea. Laugh and then do a moonsault. Well, I do that all the time. Yeah, but this time laugh. Hey, Wardlow, here's my idea. 17 power bombs. What do you think? Reinvention of Wardlow. It's the same thing. But my point is you have all these talent, all these things, and it's just, I feel like Orange Cassidy's reaction to becoming champion again is the reaction of that whole show.
I hadn't thought about it till you said that. But then again, I didn't know that Orange Cassidy even wanted the title. So to me, I hadn't even thought about it. I didn't know why the match was happening. I guess it's title night. You had to defend the title. You didn't get MJF in a match, which is fine. You didn't get John Cena directly in a match either. But you got Edge in a match, and it was a pretty good match.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good match.
But are you talking about Adam Copeland this week the way we talked about him 2 weeks ago?
Has it been 2 weeks? Yeah, it has.
Even
Yeah,
if it's
I mean,
1 week ago, he is red hot on Tuesday. I know we're talking about him after the show and continuing on what he did this week, or are we talking about something else and it's just something that he did?
Yeah, well, we know we're talking about this, so obviously we're not. Just to answer your question straight up, we're not.
Yeah, and to me that's the problem, because whether you like the wrestling or not on NXT, you're talking about that show, and now the guy who ran opposition and threw the barbs with the bald and the one-upmanship, and I get all that before these shows, but after the show, he's just reminding us that he got beat. So you're going to knock the Undertaker, who hasn't been in the ring in forever. And I believe his stuff came on after, right?
I can't tell you how everything lined up exactly. I know they both had permission to go over.
And I know Taker's went over. And
yeah.
That was the big thing on the media buzz with him and Carmelo leaving with the Brothers of Pain, doing their thing and all that stuff. But it's just, come on. Listen, here's the way I'd say. You saw Cody Rhodes in the show come out of the elevator with the kid holding the thing, the little kid. He's a wrestling podcaster, and Cody had a guy do his Instagram for him to follow it, and then Cody took his own phone because his handler does his social media, and then followed the kid, showed him, and got him tickets to WrestleMania, which is until April. Going back to your point of furthering pushing shows and all these things. Why can't Tony come out and have a handler? Whether he wants to make that handler a TV character so he can put all the heat on this dude cuff for writing the wrong stuff that he's trying to say, or what? But we talked about this many, many episodes ago. If you want to be the booker, you can't be one of the boys. If you want to be the booker, you can't be the main event.
That's the difference with Vince McMahon. Right?
Yeah.
Because Vince McMahon, historically speaking, is involved in everything.
Right.
But he's not one of the boys.
Right.
And even, I think I was listening to or watching RVD's new podcast he's doing. And they said, what are the difference between Tony Khan and his opinion? Like, how did they come across to you, right? Obviously, Vince McMahon is intimidating and and RVD felt as if he wanted to be that way, intimidating businessman. Tony Khan, down to earth, kind of one of the boys. So I think that's immediately where the difference is. Vince McMahon, and we hear reports now that Triple H is pretty much so steering the creative ship, day-to-day stuff. But Vince McMahon was involved in everything. You always hear these stories, and there was this really funny story that I heard. I think it was Bruce Pritchard. Pat Patterson and Bruce would go along with Vince. They'd travel with Vince.
Yep.
Everything was wrestling 24/7. Yep. I remember the story where Pat Patterson, and I'm not going to get it exactly right, but Pat Patterson they're at a rest stop or something, but Pat Patterson went to the stall to get away from Vince McMahon.
Sounds right.
Just because it was so much even for Pat Patterson and Bruce Pritchard, who are accustomed to it after years and years and decades. But Vince McMahon sits in the stall next to him, pulls out the notebook and starts talking business. Can't get away from it. Vince McMahon was that involved with but to your point, at no point in time, even though he was in matches and stuff, and he probably was closer to some superstars than others, probably obviously, I don't think he come across as one of the boys ever.
No, never.
And you go ahead, speak from experience.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Vince always, in my opinion, let you know that you were important to the product. That's why you were there. Everything you did was important. You need to know that. You need to know you have the opportunity and the ability to steal a show and become what you want to become. But he never sat with you and had a beer with you and had, brother. And let's do this stuff. It never happened. He let you know he's the boss. My way or the highway. He could be very personal when needed. You know what I mean? But he was the boss. He wasn't there to build a club or a camaraderie with him and the people that work for him. I think Tony has people that he likes that work alongside of him.
Right.
And Vince has, and even Hunter have people that work for them.
Yeah.
But they let that be known from the jump. And there's still the same amount of kumbaya on the WWE side as there is on the NXT AEW side. It's just, I feel like at 4+ years in, you have to have a better grasp of what you're trying to do. And if there's no end game, then make one. But I cannot see a Jeff Jarrett. I cannot see all the brains that are back there. The talent, the amount of time that people have in this business, that either they feel they can't approach him because no matter what they say, Tony's just going to do his thing. And now let me just collect my check. All the things that we didn't want to do as youngsters, I think people are willing to do as their older selves now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think, hey, I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm here. I'm on the roster. And you know who rocked the boat? Cody Rhodes. Jade Cargill now. My goodness, if Kenny Omega or MJF left there now, my goodness.
I think WWE just does a really good job about building to the future. They give those people a platform to really become something, and they'll do movies, they'll do various other things. I will watch AEW till the end of time to watch the good matches. That's not going to be the case for any new viewers. And I think as we wrap up this conversation, that's the biggest thing to me. I think me and about 500 or 600 other thousand people will watch it for the matches. I don't know how you get, and I don't think they want to get children invested, first of all.
Right.
That does not seem to be the thing, which is fine. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But as you look at some of the breakdown of the numbers, like I said earlier, NXT, older crowd, younger crowd. By far, we always talked about the key demo, whatever, but they're by far watching NXT and WWE.
Yeah.
Understandably so. It's kind of directed to them more. But I'll ask you this as the last question. We talked about a couple things that AEW can do to get more on a consistent basis, storyline telling and all that, better promoting. Because I think the live WWE has great production value, and they can hide a lot of lack of crowd engagement.
Yes.
But I can still tell watching it on television. To you, is that a big thing that you see an opportunity in AEW? I know that they're not shooting on the side that the people aren't there, but are you seeing that level of interest in the crowd? And is that important to you when you're watching TV, like seeing the crowd's reaction? Do you get into that watching it at home?
Well, I think it's a distraction when, they talked about, especially during the COVID, when they were piping in the crowd and all that stuff, and you're literally seeing people sit there, but the noise is unbelievable. I think it's a distraction.
Yeah.
And again, I say I look at it differently. While I'm watching the match, I'm also watching who's involved. And wait a minute, am I missing something? Like if they're into it, am I missing something? Or if I'm into it and they're not? So that's the kind of thing that I look for. But there's got to be more to it than just waiting for someone's song. There's got to be more to it than just, hey, am I going to see this person or not? Or am I, is someone going to come out over we see a lot more of their fans when guys go over the barrier and girls go over the barrier and stuff. I think they could do a better job of getting the people invested. But here's the thing, I'm going to go back to my soapbox. I don't think the thing that gets that going before the show and after the show is Tony Khan. Him coming out and addressing live audiences before the TV starts or something, or before, a paid event, or after an event, coming out and doing something with the stars. It's not that's not the draw for me to come back.
Because we don't have a reason to want to see him.
Right. There should be no. I would much rather. I'd be more intrigued with the genius Tony Khan, who started AEW, and it's got this new generation of wrestlers combining with legends and all these things. That's where I'd be intrigued. But now you see and hear from him so much. I don't think they could have taken the blueprint from WWE and at least tried to reinvent the wheel. At least try to take some of that and put their flavor on it, right? Put their stink on the same thing and make it a better business model. But there's got to be more than just putting on a couple shows a day and having YouTube hits and all these things. And what happens when those guys aren't doing that anymore? When the Kennys stop or decides to retire, the Young Bucks stop doing all their stuff, and the Mexican guys get rehired somewhere else and do all. Then what do? You've got to come up with something that makes me want to come back.
AEW is having a hard time balancing television and live entertainment. I think it's very evident. I don't know which one they're focusing on or going after. I don't think there's an even balance, but I can't tell you which one way or the other. Yeah. But from a television standpoint, you got a point with they're going to have great matches. You can tune in and watch it. Heck, I did that with Ring of Honor forever.
Yeah.
Even a probably underrated storytelling. I think where Ring of Honor, and I know I said we're wrapping it up, but Ring of Honor did a good job of that in the ring, though. The storytelling in the ring and all that.
Yes.
And I think where wrestling is today, and it's WWE and AEW, you got to be a really special cat to tell those stories inside the ring at such a strong rate.
Yeah.
We rely on segments and promos and stuff a lot now. Whereas in the past, to me, my opinion, a lot of that storytelling could take place in the ring as it related to the subject matter. And I think that is where AEW has got to find a balance at.
Yeah.
And that's my final thoughts on the topic.
No, I agree. I think everything you've said, I agree with everything you've said tonight. Like I said, I'm like that old crotchety guy who keeps coming back to the same thing. I think the talent's amazing on both sides of the fence. You can never talk about them when you can't do what they do. They're amazing athletes, entertainers, wrestlers on both sides, both the men and the women on both sides. But I feel like one company does them more justice than the other. And I think, to your point, it's finding that balance. But, geez, I don't think you have 4 more years to find it. I think now that window's closing a little bit more as we go because WWE's back out on the road and they're coming to your town. And you don't want to run a town after them or the week before them because they're going to take the funds, man. They're going to take it.
Do you think, this will be the last thing I ask you, it really will be. Do you think Tony Khan really thought he was going to, I don't know, kick their ass in the ratings? Do you really think he thought that?
I think in the initial start, I thought he came out of the gates hot and goes, you know what? We got him. And it was a great starting point. The problem is history leans towards knowledge, right? And history leans towards experience and all these things. And that's why I keep saying, lean on the people you have there with that experience who have been through the wars. Whether they're in the ring as active participants or not, their minds are incredible. The way they think, what they've been through, what they've learned, what they know, let them share that with not only the talent, let them share that with you, boss. Let them sit you down and go, if he has such a relationship with these guys, I feel like someone should be able to sit him down and go, listen, all due respect, boss. Let's start really grinding here. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of fun for 2 hours every Tuesday and Friday and whatever else. And it's time that the honeymoon's over.
Time to find an identity.
Yeah. Other than 3 letters. All elite is not all elite anymore. Let's define what AEW means and let's get people, moving and put the right people in the right places. But for the love of Pete, give someone your phone and stay off social media.
Yeah, and I'll be a lot more nice than a lot of people are. In my opinion, it was pretty close on which was the better show. You're not going to say that.
Well, no. Other than the numbers, like if we're dealing with numbers, and I know Tony's a big numbers guy, if you go by the numbers, it was a shellacking. As far as the shows themselves, they were good shows. Rival neck to neck. But my whole thing was, that's not what we're talking. We should have been diving into this match here and this match here and how do they compare and this, that, but we're not. We're talking about...
When you're writing good television, everything happens for a reason.
Yes. But we didn't get that. We have
your friend Vince Russo speaks on that. Controversial guy, but wrote television, and he talks about that. Why, having things happen for a reason. And I think that's where we lack there. Man, what a great discussion. And again, this was our first time to go in live. And we'll continue to do this, and we'll have the display and all that will be prettied up and a little bit better. But we literally threw this together in about 15 minutes a while ago.
Yeah, I love it.
I got Bill's count locked out for about an hour, but we're good now. Yeah, Bill DeMott Experience, man. This is a little bit different kind of an episode. We'll get back on track next week. But I think we'll continue to incorporate the live. I certainly don't think it hurts anything. Yeah. We'll start doing a better job of plugging it. And we're going to try next week our best to get into this Bray Wyatt deep dive. I'm going to use the StreamYard here. We're going to get some videos, some promos, and different things we can do to help honor Bray Wyatt. So to me, big show next week, man. I'm excited. It's actually been kind of nerve-wracking to me because I want it to be good. I really liked our U.S. title thing that we did. Yeah. And I am saying this for a reason, because we do have a good back catalog here as we close in. This will be the 30th episode. And we're going to get back to that evergreen content, and we'll appreciate it. We'll try to do a better job of getting out there and getting this promoted for live, because I think this is pretty neat. So I'm excited to kind of segue into what we're doing on here.
Yeah, I think it's always cool, and I appreciate your look. I'll put it to you. You're always thinking ahead, right? It's kind of the theme of this episode, but I appreciate it. I like this format a lot, and I think so here'd be my old man advice to you: don't overthink the Bray Wyatt thing. It's going to be a great tribute episode, and it's going to do exactly what we want it to do: is pay tribute to the big man. In our own way, and I like this format. And Vince's mustache set me off on Twitter. He said, "Hey, are you guys going to talk about AEW and NXT?" And I went, "Oh, hell yeah, we're going to talk."
See, I like the episodes. I like it when there's more of a focal point.
Yeah,
I do love answering the fan questions and all that, and we always set aside time to do that. But for me, it's hard to go everywhere.
Yeah,
so I do like it when there's a topic. Like tonight, we went off on some rabbit holes, yeah, but there's a topic,
right? There's
a message at the end of the day, and we've covered that in great detail. I do like doing that a lot. But yeah, we'll always make time to get your questions in, so please continue to send them on Twitter. I'm at Podcast Father. He's Bill DeMott. We're pretty much so that on everything. What are you pointing at, BDE? No, we're pointing at your vitamins.
My vitamins, the hard hat.
Yeah, actually. If you're pointing at me, I'm the other way on my screen. I don't know which way you are on your screen. Anyway, there you go. Yeah, Bill's got his vitamins, and we'll make sure we get all hulked up, brother, for next week.
Brother.
Go to BillDeMott.com, check out the foundation, and, of course, all the past episodes. You can also email us at BillDeMottPod@gmail.com. Closing thought, a stoic quote. What do you have, Bill?
Being first is second. Wanting to be first should be your first thought.
Oh, I like that a lot. I'm going to go to my usual and put this one to bed. Until next time, keep being you and keep being great.